Hello everyone and welcome to another casual review. Today I'm talking about Splatoon 2. I played the first one way back when and now it is time for the second. I want to clarify that I mostly just played the single player campaign for this one, and it starts off a lot like the first one. Essentially the evil Octolings have stolen the giant Zapfish and the mini Zapfish, and so we cannot power our Inkopolis city. You are hired by one of the Squid sisters, Marie, also known as Agent 1, and you are labeled Agent 4. I believe that the character from the first game is Agent 3. He is off with Captain Cuttlefish. Structure-wise, it works a lot like the first one as well. You go to these 5 different mini hub worlds, and you have to do a certain level of Splatoon platforming in order to find where all of these entry points are for the individual levels. And once you complete all the individual levels, a boss will then unlock. You defeat the boss, and then you go on to the next hub world. They start you off with the hero shooter is what they call it, but it's basically just like your standard run-of-the-mill pea shooter automatic gun, and you'll navigate through a couple levels this way. If you're not familiar with the Splatoon series, it's basically like a paint gun, and as you are shooting, then it paints the surfaces all around you, and then you can turn into a squid and sink into the same colored paint. This allows you to climb up vertical walls. It also allows you to recharge your ink. This is basically like your way of reloading. You're also a lot more mobile in your ink form, so you are constantly swapping between your squid form and your inkling form in order to recharge and fire your paint gun. There's a variety of Octoling enemies. Some of them have little shields on them, others are flying up in the air. And so what I really like about these structured levels is it's like these curated platforming third-person shooter levels that take on a very unique approach by allowing you to turn into the squid to navigate through like these grates and revolving platforms. You'll encounter these launch pads that launch you like straight up into the air to go land on another floating surface. It's very similar to something that you might see in Super Mario Galaxy when you go through those launch stars. There are also hidden collectibles in all of the levels. You can find these scrolls, and after you beat the level, then they represent like little pieces of the Splatoon history. I know that the whole lore of Splatoon kind of alludes to some apocalyptic cataclysmic event. I'm not too clear on the events of that, but it kind of like alludes to the world before the Inklings sometimes. Other times they're just funny little quips and things like that. You can also find this one resource called Sardinium, and you use Sardinium in order to upgrade your equipment in the single player game. So you might make it so you have a larger ink capacity so you can fire off more of your paint gun before you have to dive back into the ink. You also have like these bombs, but then you can change up your type of arsenal with different types of bombs, and maybe like remote homing bombs that drive towards the enemy, just little things like that. And you can also upgrade your shooter. Now, as you play through the game, you will be given a variety of weapons, and a lot of times these levels are kind of curated for a specific weapon. And so the first time that you're playing through these levels, you are forced to use these specific weapons, and I feel like this is a good introduction for you to try out all of the different equipment, see which ones you like, see which ones you don't like. So in addition to the hero shooter, you'll be able to use like a giant paint roller, and this allows you to like roll it along the ground, and this is great for spreading your colored paint like all over the surface. You can also just kind of like splash it, and it does like a short ranged attack. I didn't really like the paint roller that much. There's the dual shooters where you got 2 paint guns and you can shoot really fast and do like dodge rolls. I like that one a lot. There's almost like a long range sniping type of paint gun. You can't like zoom in as far as I could tell, but it does like a really strong, precise, long ranged attack after you charge it up. There's just like a paintbrush, and this allows you to like run really quick. It works kind of like the paint roller, but you're a little more mobile than that, and you can do these short range attacks. Again, I didn't really like that one. There's one where it's basically just like a mid-range, but like after it hits that endpoint, then it does like an AoE attack. One of my actual favorites, which was surprising to me because I didn't like the paint roller or the paintbrush, it's basically just like a paint bucket, and you just kind of like chuck a bunch of paint. And I think I like it for novelty's sake, because I do think it's kind of funny that all these other people are using like these high-tech arsenal paint guns, and you're just chucking buckets of paint at people. But I actually found it to be fairly functional for how I like to play this game, because it does a good job of getting paint everywhere, but also does like a good burst damage as well. I don't think I even got to all of them, but there's a ton of different weapons that you get to try out and play through these levels that are specifically curated to showcase these weapons' strengths and maybe some of their weaknesses. And then you can use Sardinium. Let's say that you do end up liking one of the weapons, you can use the Sardinium to then upgrade it to give it to like a higher rate of fire or whatever. I didn't really do that during this campaign because I felt like the majority of levels forced me to use specific weapons, and I didn't want to spend all of my currency to upgrade a weapon that I would only use some of the time. Now, you can go back to these levels and use then your weapon of choice if you want, if you're a completionist. I'm not sure if there's any reward in doing so, though. The boss fights themselves are very cool. All of them have like 3 different stages, so they kind of do a little quick stage 1 that kind of shows you what the boss is about and how to get to their weak point, and then it ramps up, and then it ramps up a 3rd time, and they're all very unique. They all have their own strategies in order to defeat them. They're all very exciting. And one of the things that I have to give a lot of praise for when it comes to the Splatoon series is not only the aesthetic, which is really colorful, obviously, with all this paint going on, and it has a very unique aesthetic, but also it has very unique music as well. It's like this garbled kind of punk poppy kind of music. I can't explain it well, but it's especially exciting during these boss battles. Now, I know I talked about this a lot in my Splatoon 1 casual review, but I just can't get used to the gyro aiming. This is like the motion aiming where you can move your Switch or your controller around in order to aim, and I know like all the pro Splatoon players swear by it. They say that is how you get really good with Splatoon. I just can't, like, no matter how much I try, I can't wrap my head around it, and so I end up usually just turning that off and using the right analog stick to aim. I know it's not as quick, I know it's not as good, but I for some reason I can't just put in the time to get good with the gyro aiming. I would say that the main campaign, the single player campaign, takes about 10-ish hours to do, which is just fine with me. I think for what it is, it's a really good job kind of introducing you to the game, getting your foot in the door, maybe building up your confidence a little bit, just for you to try out multiplayer like I did and have that confidence completely squashed. So I want to say I played maybe 4 or 5 games, 5 matches, and I've lost every single one. And I felt like I was the only low-level player. Most of the other players were in the double digits. And I want to say, one of my grievances is no matter what, they start you with the dinky little pea shooter. Even like all those weapons that you quote-unquote unlocked in the single-player campaign, you can't bring them with you to multiplayer. So there is a separate currency in the multiplayer, and that is what you use to change your appearance, all your cosmetics, but you can also use this to customize your weapons and unlock new weapons, and it's really difficult as a level 1 to have this dinky little pea shooter while I'm going against all these level 30 and 40 players that are just demolishing me with weapons I haven't even seen before. They weren't even featured in the single player campaign. And so I really felt like a fish out of water, pun intended, and that's when I decided to just kind of throw in the towel and say, yep, the multiplayer is not for me. Clearly all these people are veterans who have stuck with Splatoon 2, even though Splatoon 3 has come out, and I didn't want to dedicate the time in order to unlock my favorite weapon, the paint bucket. I do like just wandering around just the main hub of Inkopolis. I think the way that they presented this hub is really cool. They like populate it with other characters. They're just standing around, like you can't see them moving around or anything like that, but like, you know, they're playing DDR, or they're talking with each other, or they're sitting at like a little cafe, and you can go to all these little stores to shop for your hats or your weapons or your new shirts. This is also where you can activate the amiibo functionality. From the stuff that I did try, it looks like this just unlocks cosmetics. In the first game, some of these unlocked some pretty cool challenges and even like a secret concert. As far as I can tell, that is not the case here though, but it does look like you can save certain sets, like your outfit and your equipment, to the amiibo. so that you can just have it all pre-equipped and ready to go, as far as I understand. And I mean, like, clearly the majority of Splatoon players have moved on to Splatoon 3 at this point, but it hasn't been completely forgotten yet. And I'm certainly glad that I was able to pick it up and play it just for the single player alone, because I actually really enjoyed the single player. It didn't crush my hopes and dreams like multiplayer did. I'm going to give the single player specifically, I think, a 4 out of 5. I actually would be interested in looking into the DLC. I was also interested in trying out Salmon Run. This is like, as far as I understand it, this is like the Splatoon's version of the Horde mode, but it wasn't one of the featured game modes when I did try this out. And so I wasn't able to play that mode firsthand. But I did enjoy my time enough to investigate Splatoon 3 when I am able to purchase a copy for myself for a fair deal. I need to be able to justify buying it only for the single player mode in case I do not like the multiplayer mode. Well, folks, that's it for me. Let me know if you have any questions or comments about Splatoon 2, and I'd love to hear what you have to say. Otherwise, I'll talk to you later. Bye!